What's up, y'all? Sparta here. I want to do a quick. I'm not gonna say quick because it might not actually. Most likely, knowing me, it won't be quick. Especially since this is a more. I'm not gonna say emotional because what people associate emotional with is crying and sadness. You know, I'll say it's a video with passion in it, right? A video about the note line and what it represents, what it has represented, and how I think Samsung ultimately dropped the ball when it comes to a lot of things. Now, this isn't to say that the Note 8 is a garbage phone. I think what a lot of the enthusiasts in the Android community, specifically with the Note user in mind, the Note enthusiasts, is that this is a bad phone because it just feels like an S8 Plus with an S Pen, which in layman's terms, that's essentially what it is. It's an S8 Plus with an S Pen and dual cameras. That's all it really is. If you don't want to dive deep into it and just want to have a valid reason not to purchase the phone, not to spend $1,000 ruse on this phone right here, right? Yes, it is essentially just an S8 Plus with an S Pen. Beyond the design philosophy that the Note series, is known for, despite the S Pen, despite a lot of stuff, right? You can clearly say that, sure, it's just an S8 Plus with an S Pen. And if I'm to be honest, I really do dislike that approach when it comes to this phone, because it is beyond that. In some ways, you can say yes, you can. A lot of what Samsung did with the software, they can easily have just ported to the S8 and S8 Plus, right? Yeah, they could have. Hell, they could probably port it to the Note 5 if they wanted to, right? Yeah, they definitely could have, most likely. Let me tell you why the stance that the Note 8 is not a phone to get it gets under my skin. People bring up the price tag argument, right? And I'll just say this. The Note the Note 8 is not the first Galaxy Note device to go to either approach or go or meet or go above the $1,000 price tag. Look at the Samsung Galaxy Note Edge when that first came out. That was like $950. The very first Samsung phone with an Edge display. That was over $950, and people praised that phone, right? Despite initially shitting on it because it just looked wonky, right? So yeah, that's what you say. That's what you look at there. So the price tag argument could go out the window, in my opinion, because 9 times out of 10, if you're with a carrier, you're not buying a phone full price unless you truly have the money to do so, and you get the phone subsidized. You get it with a down payment, which my down payment came up to $280 or something. I don't remember. I ended up ultimately paying $302 or something like that for the phone itself, and I'm paying it monthly. So no, up front I did not pay $1,000. If that were the thing, if I had to do that, this phone wouldn't be here right now. Not because I don't think it's not $1,000 worthy, but simply because I don't see myself spending $1,000 on any phone. And another thing is that when it comes to something like the Note line that's revered for being the revolutionary phone from Samsung every year, the phone, the true antithesis to Apple, right? Every year, right? Slowly and slowly, since pretty much 2014, no, not 2014, 2015, that's slowly been dwindling away as they went to more premium options, taking out stuff like removable batteries and stuff like that, right? Stuff that Samsung users lambasted Apple fanboys for, right? Samsung and Apple fanboys have been going at it for years over that, right? Removable battery, removable storage, right? Samsung no longer has the removable battery portion. LG kept it for the longest time. They finally went away from it, which once I get the V30, I'll go more in depth on that and how I feel about that. In the shorthand, I don't think it's that big of a deal for me personally, but it's whatever. So the Note, when you get down to it, sure, it's an S8 Plus with an S Pen, whatever, sure. If you're just looking at it from a hardware standpoint, I guess you can say that. And is Samsung doing stuff to pretty much make it, forcing it to be different from its other phones from earlier this year? Yes, they're pretty much forcing certain software to not be in their other phones, mainly because they're so shit at updating phones, right? As pretty much any Android OEM is. So that essentially the Note 8 has more lifestyle features catered to it than it does to the S8 and S8 Plus, which are perfectly capable of running that stuff. Let me show you one thing that a lot of S Pen Note users have had pretty much for the longest time. That pretty much made it so that you're going to focus phone like shit. Okay, so you got Smart Select here, right? You can get it in your Edge panel. You can get this on your Note, your S8, your S8 Plus, because they also have the Edge panel stuff, right? So the four things that came, one of the things that came with, Samsung's most highly revered phone, despite the fact that it, exploded. I keep forgetting where my Edge panel is the GIF animation, right? You can make GIFs with this phone, right? Now you can do that by just putting, Smart Select in your Edge panels, or you take out your S Pen, hit the button, or if you have it automatically, your quick command menu, if you have air command menu, if you have that automatically deploy when you remove the S Pen, you can press Smart Select right here, and it'll do the exact same thing. The only difference is that everything is on top now. Oh, God, what the fuck? Now, I don't think that there's a lot of things that the software on this phone can easily be ported to the S8, S8 Plus. But there's also another thing that $1,000 premium price, right? There's things that should automatically come with an $1,000 phone, right? Such as, a superior software experience, one that doesn't bog down over time, one that doesn't just become complete shit. Because as I said with my S7 review, right? You can have this pretty phone. This phone is beautiful. Don't get me wrong, it looks great. But when your phone is constantly, my me personally doesn't do this, but it's done it a couple times. But when it constantly force closes apps, when it constantly lags up, when you can't do something as simple as swipe from left to right on the screen or go into apps and stuff like that, if you can't do something as simple as scroll through the app carousel, right? Recent app carousel, right? Your phone looks more and more unattractive because the software is bogging down, right? Which, no matter how powerful the hardware is, that's what people don't seem to remember. You know, phones like the Nexus 5 and the Nexus 5X and the Nexus 6, they weren't the best looking phones. Hell, the 6P wasn't even one of the best looking phones. It was a well built phone, but it wasn't one of the best looking phones ever. But the things that make stuff like the Pixel, like the Nexus line, like the iPhone, like Moto phones, so attractive is that their software experience is not so much iOS now, but iOS in the past. Their software experience is what they nail the most. Samsung doesn't seem to get that philosophy at all. And another thing is that from Note 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, aside from the Note 2 and the Note 1, which basically looked like their respective Galaxy S phones from that year, the Note 3 and the Note 4 looked different from their counterparts, right? The S4 and the S5, right? They looked entirely different from those. They also didn't have features that those features have. The S5 had water resistance. The Note 4 didn't have water resistance, but it had aluminum side rails, and, you know, it just felt great in the hand, right? The Note 5 came out, right? And I no longer have the Note 5, and people lambasted it because it just looked like a bloated up, or it just looked like an S6 Edge Plus with an S Pen and with the curve on the back rather than on the front. That's pretty much what people said. Despite the fact that it brought so many different things that made the S Pen more of a tool to use for productivity. The Note 7 didn't really bring that much. So for people to say that it's the best Note, I don't understand. The Note 8 definitely didn't bring that much. What did it bring? Live messages. That's all it really brought to the table, which I don't even use aside from novelty. The Note 5 to me was the Note that I truly cared about, that I took pride in owning. I hunted that phone down. I made sure I was able to get that phone. I didn't make sure I was able to get the Note 8 because I knew I was going to get the Note 8. I thought the same was going to be for the V30, right? But guess what? That's having the opposite effect because that phone is back ordered and the Note 8 wasn't. So this is coming from not just somebody that is, I'll say this, I'm not a Samsung fan, I'm a Note fan. If I'm a fan of any company, I'll prove to you how much I'm a fan of a company, right? LG. I'm a fan of LG. I've owned every single LG G series phone except for the Optimus G and except for the G Flex line and the G Pro line. Every G2, I've owned G2, G3, G4, G5, and G6. The most hated phone, aside from the LG Optimus View that LG has made, the G5. I still don't get why people hate this phone. You can get a battery as big as the S7 Edge and bigger than or slightly bigger than the S8 Plus. I could get a 3530 milliamp hour battery in this thing simply by just removing the battery and just plopping in a whole nother battery. I found one on Amazon that I'm actually going to buy. I can't do it with this yet because I got to get it fixed. I'm getting it off my friend, the same friend that sold me the V10, because I actually want to do a video on this phone, because I feel this phone was mistreated and misrepresented in a lot of ways, especially compared to its competition. But that's a video for another day. Now, when the G5 came out, it was criticized for not having water resistance and not having a glass back, or just not having a premium feel in the hand, period, despite the fact that it brought so much more to the table than just simple water resistance and a glass back. It pretty much started up the dual camera game, right? LG and Huawei pretty much started up that. You could say the 1M8 did it, but the 1M8 did it to poor effect. It pretty much does it how LG, aside from, the G5, was the first to truly embrace dual cameras when it came to like the 3D stuff. The Evo 3D and the LG Optimus 3D. The Optimus 3D came out before the Evo 3D. So LG was technically the first one to do it. And they still were the first one to do it, and still a way that a lot of people prefer. Now, don't get me wrong. I do like how Samsung has utilized this. I think it's the best way to do a telephoto setup. Letting you adjust the background blur to your liking. I prefer that over what Apple does. But say if LG were to do the same thing on, say, the G7 or the V40 or whatever, right? How Google is doing it through machine learning with a single sensor. Now, it doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as satisfying with the background blur, but it still can be done with one sensor, and that's what I'm trying to get at. They're not introducing features that are groundbreaking anymore. They're just merely, I'm not going to say playing catch up, but they're not doing anything with the Note line that's truly, like when they came with the dual cameras, it was more like about time, because they were going to do it eventually, right? When it came to USB Type-C, when they brought it with the Note 7, it was like about time, right? Because they were going to do it eventually. I'm not going to say catching up because that's just a term I don't like using. That's like a fanboy term to use when a company you don't like is finally bringing something to the table. Like when, a lot of OLED/AMOLED fanboys wanted to come up and say, oh, LG is finally using OLED about time. But they want to lambaste them for having screen issues, right? Despite the fact that Samsung had it for years before they perfected it, right? Or got it to near perfection. What I want to get at is that I don't hate the Note 8. And I feel that the hate of the Note 8 is unprecedented in a lot of ways. But the how Samsung has handled differentiating this phone from its other flagship, the S line, has been handled poorly, in my opinion. When you look at a G series and a V series phone, you can see the difference. You can feel the difference. Sure, with the G5 from the V10 in particular, right? The G5 didn't come with manual video mode when it could have. It didn't come with, it came with like the worst headphone jack of 2016. so that's something that they could have done to make it better. Waterproofing, I didn't care for at the time. I still hate glass backs to this day. But what LG did to differentiate G series and V series has been better than what Samsung has done. Because when you get a G series phone from, say you get the G7 next year, chances are you'll get all the video features that you get on the V30, right? Or majority of them that you can get. Because with the G6, you get all the features that you get in the manual mode anyway. The only real difference is that you can't like adjust. You can't do you can't adjust where you want the audio to focus, where you want the mics to focus the audio, whether you want it to focus towards you or towards the subject in front of you. You can't do that on the G6, but you can do everything else. It has the hi-fi audio recording app or HD audio recording app, not hi-fi. Sure, in select markets, it had the, quad DAC, and it had all the controversial shit that LG did that they didn't need to do, which I do not condone. I legitimately made a video about Android OEMs limiting features to certain markets, so I'm not even going to get into that anymore. The thing is, when you went from the Note 4 to the Note 5, you lost stuff like removable battery, and expandable storage. Jesus Christ. And that hurt a lot of Note fans, right? But what Samsung did with the Note 5 is they introduced a plethora of S Pen features. You were able to write on PDFs with the S Pen. You were able to, I think they started to translate stuff with the Note 5. I'm not sure. You were able to translate with the Note 5 S Pen. You were able to magnify with the S Pen. You were able to do the screen off memo. This, if I can do it without scratching the bottom of my phone, you can do that. You're able to do quite a bit of things, which is still to this day a powerful package and a powerful offering. Something that you can't say for a lot of phones. Phones from 2 years ago, 2015, specifically the V10 and the G4, haven't aged that well, I will admit it. There are kinks with the V10. There are kinks with the G4. They have the kinks of, the boot loop issue, which thankfully I haven't witnessed on here yet. And hopefully I won't, because I love this phone. But there are things that Samsung, sure, they introduced IP68 water and dust resistance with the Note 7. Sure, they introduced GIF making and all that stuff with the Note 7. But what else did they really do? Aside from add an always-on display with the Note 7, add the same camera tech that they had with the S7. This pretty much the same S Pen with the same features, other than again the GIF thing, which is just software, so they could easily port that to the Note 5, right? Just how they easily ported that to the S8, S8 Plus. What they're doing now is stuff like, literally, a lot of the stuff was just, this was a bigger S series phone with an S Pen and a plethora of features, and it was the more powerful of the two, right? Now that's no longer the case. And I'm not saying that, the V series is the more powerful of the G series, although this year the V30 is clearly more powerful than the G6 because it has the Snapdragon 835, while the G6 has the Snapdragon 821. But no one was complaining. Actually, people did complain that the V20 had the fucking Snapdragon 820 and not the 821, which was really stupid, while this also has a Snapdragon 820. And sure, they added more RAM and stuff like that, but it has a smaller battery than the S8 Plus. And it's like, if they don't innovate with the Note 9, because my next video, I'll probably talk about Huawei, but Huawei has enticed me and made me think about a lot of things when it comes to what I want in a secondary smartphone compared to what Samsung has done, which is just put a stylus in my phone, give me features that I can get on the phone that you released earlier this year and call it a day, and slap $1,000 price tag on it, which again doesn't really bother me, as I said before, but I just want to say that. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys disappointed with Samsung and what they did with the Note 8? Again, I'm not disappointed in this phone to say the least, because I do really enjoy using this phone. Every time I pick up this phone, it is a joy to use. It's not something that Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to reply to a message, but again, let me know what you guys think of this. Do you think the Note 8 is a disappointment to you guys? As I said, it's not really to me. I don't regret getting the phone, as a lot of people do. I think when the V30 came out, a lot of people realized that Sorry about that yet again. I literally just got a call after I said that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think yet again. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the support. As I said, V30 will most likely be in Monday. I really do hope so, because I'm really getting tired of waiting. After all the hell I've been through, I'm not really going to get into it now. When I get it, I'll get more into it. But yeah. Thank you guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful, what is it, Thursday? Yes, Thursday night, or whatever day or time it is in your area. Have a good one.